In the late 1820s, the state of Georgia was already putting pressure on the Cherokee Indians that inhabited the northern mountain areas. During that time, Samuel Worcester, a Christian missionary from Vermont, was living with the Cherokee. He was helping them resist the harassment by Georgia officials. He advised them on matters of law and their rights as a sovereign nation. When gold was discovered on Indian land in 1828, the pressure on the Indians increased. The Georgia legislature wanted the missionaries to stop helping the Indians and made a law saying that no white persons were allowed to be on the reservation without a license issued by the state. Several of the missionaries, including Worcester, were brought into custody. As Samuel Worcester then held the position of postmaster for the U.S. Post Office in the Cherokee Nation, Georgia was forced to release him as that the position gave him the right to remain on the reservation despite the new Georgia law. So, Governor George R. Gilmer persuaded the U.S. Post Office to relieve Worcester of his duties as postmaster and then ordered the missionaries to leave again. Worcester and some of his fellow missionaries refused and were arrested once more. They were eventually convicted of violating Georgia's laws and sentenced to 4 years in prison. Worcester appealed the case to the U.S. Supreme Court. In a previous Supreme Court case, Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, the Supreme Court established that the Cherokee Nation was a sovereign, self-governing nation whose independence and land had been guaranteed in treaties with the U.S. government. No one but the federal government could make treaties and laws regulating the actions of the Cherokee. John Marshall, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, said, "The Cherokee Nation, then, is a distinct community occupying its own territory, in which the lands of Georgia can have no force, and which the citizens of Georgia have no right to enter but with the assent of the Cherokees themselves, or in conformity with treaties and with the acts of Congress. The whole intercourse between the United States and this nation is, by our Constitution and laws, vested in the government of the United States." Worcester versus Georgia was argued before the U.S. Supreme Court in 1832. Worcester argued that Georgia had no right to extend its laws to Cherokee territory. He argued that the laws that convicted him violated the U.S. Constitution, which prohibits the states from passing laws contradicting federal treaties. Furthermore, Worcester argued that the Georgia laws violated an 1802 Act of Congress regulating trade and relations between the United States and the Indian tribes. The Supreme Court agreed with Worcester and ordered his release, but Georgia ignored the decision and kept the missionaries in prison. President Andrew Jackson refused to enforce the Supreme Court's decision, and this allowed the states to enact further legislation damaging to the tribes. Because of the interference of Jackson and the politicians, the Cherokee eventually signed a removal treaty and were marched to present-day Oklahoma on what is known as the Trail of Tears. Was Georgia right in ignoring the law of the land? Was Jackson following the law? No. The missionaries were sent to the Cherokee to make the whole tribe English in their language, civilized in their habits, and Christian in their religion. They were teaching the Cherokees the religion that the citizens of Georgia believed in and the language they spoke, and to act the same way. If Georgia had followed federal law, if Andrew Jackson as president had upheld the rulings of the Supreme Court, the relationship between the Cherokee and the citizens of Georgia may have been much better than it came to be. Samuel Worcester saw what was coming and spoke against relocating the Cherokee. He said, "The lands we possess are the gift of our Creator. They are moreover recognized by the United States and guaranteed to us forever. Our limits on all sides are permanently fixed and well known. Within these limits, we consider ourselves at home and have no doubt to the goodness of our title. And the pure air of our country, the wholesome springs and fertile soil are well suited to supply our wants and to promote our happiness. Our Creator has not given us the land beyond the Mississippi, but has given it to other people, and why should we wish to enter upon their possessions?